Most characters' journeys in horror films end in death, and while that is a concept we also want to explore, we'll save that for another list. Instead, what about those characters whose fate is almost far worse than the sweet peacefulness of death? Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 terrible fates to horror movie victims. Number 1. The Human Walrus, Tusk. I hope it goes without saying that there will be massive spoilers on this list. The first entry is from a bizarre cult horror film, Tusk. The film follows Wallace Brighton, a renowned podcaster played by Justin Long, who ventures into the Canadian wilderness to interview an old man, Howard Howe, with a sinister past. Now, for all horror fans, all this spells is bad news. Justin Long may not be new to the genre, but as likable and charismatic as he is, things don't always go well for his characters. See Jeepers Creepers and Barbarian. Shout out to him for being an unsung scream king, but I digress. Tusk is bizarre, uncomfortable, and smarter than it has a right to be, thanks to Kevin Smith's script and direction. Yes, that Kevin Smith. Smith is known for his poignant yet irreverent comedies such as Clerks and Dogma, and built a whole cinematic universe around his films long before Marvel launched its own. Smith has always said he's a screenwriter first, and is arguably one of the best at quippy, sharp dialogue. Tusk is Smith's second foray into horror after Red State, and I commend him for venturing outside his wheelhouse. Now back to the terrible fate in Tusk. Wallace discovers Howard's obsession with a particular walrus, Mr. Tusk, who allegedly saved the old man. Howard then reveals he has a deep hatred of people, hacks up Wallace in a calculated manner, and surgically turns him into a human walrus. Howard essentially uses Wallace's own body parts to fashion him into a walrus-like creature. He's stitched up and forced to live as a disfigured walrus man-thing because of this psychotic old man. Tusk has become a cult classic, and it's also quite divisive. Tell us where you stand on it in the comments after you watch it on Fandango, Google Play, Prime, or Apple TV. Number 2. Trapped in a Reflection, Mirrors. 2008's dreadful American remake of South Korea's Into the Mirrors, simply titled Mirrors, opens with a security guard running through a subway station being chased by some sinister entity. Said security guard finds himself in a room he cannot escape. While looking into the mirror, the security guard's reflection slits his own throat with shattered glass, effectively killing the guard in reality. A cop, Ben Carson, played by Kiefer Sutherland, was suspended for killing a man in a shootout. On top of that drama, he's having marital troubles. Ben is trying to rebuild his life as he quit drinking and now works security at Mayfield Mall. What ensues is he begins seeing things in reflections, and a whole convoluted mystery unfolds. Mirrors is a thoroughly bad film. Cheap production, soulless acting, vapid dialogue, bizarre script. However, the deaths are cool, some even unexpected. And Kiefer Sutherland does the best he can with the material, and the rest of the cast, including Paula Patton and Amy Smart, are likable. Mirrors also has a nice little twist. Once Ben seemingly defeats the demon in the mirror, and we enter the final moments of the film, it's revealed that Ben is now trapped in the other mirror dimension. Does it make sense? No, but whatever. Check it out on Plex, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 3. Mind Prison, Get Out. Jordan Peele pushed modern, elevated horror into the mainstream with his 2017 directorial debut, Get Out. The victims in this film suffer a fate many would consider worse than death. Peele has proven to be a masterful suspense horror director over the years. A modern Hitchcock, if you will. Get Out consistently satirizes genre norms, particularly through the lens of race. More importantly, it critiques a more nuanced version of modern racism. The story seizes Chris Washington, played brilliantly by Daniela Kaluuya, visiting his girlfriend's parents for the first time. Chris is black, his girlfriend is white, and it's a genuine fear for him that her parents will be racist. It comes as somewhat of a relief to him that they carry themselves as affluent liberals. However, he quickly discovers that something much more sinister is going on in this lily-white suburb. The older generation of white people are talking over bodies of the black people that they lure in. It's quite literally cultural appropriation. The audience is demonstrated this awful fate in this infamous scene in which Chris is hypnotized and loses control of his body. He is trapped in his own mind, unable to control his own physical abilities, as another person has taken over him. Take some time to check this out over on Peacock, Hulu, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 4. Becoming a Vessel, Hereditary. Hereditary is visionary director Ari Aster's debut film, and at its core is a family drama. It's a family conflict which propels its horror. The grandmother of the Graham family dies, and her daughter and their family unwillingly inherit the dark aspects of her history. Hereditary is an allegory for the metaphorical demons and diseases that are passed down to us. The film is a masterclass thriller with plenty of disturbing visuals, narrative twists, and nuanced frights. And hats off to Toni Collette and her powerhouse performance that was snubbed by the Academy. All the weirdness and disorientation with Hereditary does serve a purpose. Everything intelligibly comes together by the end, and as we learn that the grandmother was part of a cult, and a son was promised to them for their demon leader, Paimon. After all the trauma, grief, and misery this demon put the family through, the son, Charlie, ends his own life. But he is possessed by the demon regardless, and has to live as him until someone else can take his place. So his fate is unwilling demonic possession, or simply remain dead. Make sure to check this out over on Hulu, Fandango, Prime, Google Play, or Apple TV. Number 5. Stuck in Another Reality, The Void. 2017's The Void is the cult film that unfortunately slipped under the radar. It opens with a man and woman fleeing a house. He escapes and she is shot and set on fire. A cop comes across the injured man on the road and takes him into a hospital. All hell breaks loose in the hospital as cultists descend upon it. And by all hell, I mean quite literally, as the creatures shown in this film would make H.P. Lovecraft smile. What makes The Void good is its beautiful grotesquerie, from both the gruesome deaths and the grotesque creatures. On top of that, the film is also thought-provoking that carries surprising emotional heft. A bit of dialogue that will live rent-free in my head that the cop says to another dimensional creature. "Tell me what you see," says the creature. "I see a monster who thinks he's God," says the cop. The terrible fate is that the protagonists are left trapped in the Lovecraftian dimension. The film had similar ideas and structures to The Mist, which I'll talk about later on this list, only executed in a unique but still good way. Check it out over on Tubi, Crackle, Redbox, Plex, Prime, Peacock, Philo, Google Play, Fandango, or Apple TV.
Looking for some new duds to dazzle your friends and family with? Support Fat Ninja Studios by heading over to fatninja.shop and checking out our very own merch store. We've got everything from shirts, hoodies, hats, shoes, and more. Again, check out fatninja.shop. Every dollar spent goes to our big fund jar and helps us produce more quality content and short films. Thanks again.
Number 6. Left to Rot, Saw. The original Saw hit theaters 20 years ago and has since become a classic. The film spawned 9 sequels and counting, as well as many imitators. It has brought new innovations to gore and even popularized the whole subgenre, torture porn. Before Saw became an influential classic, it was just a visceral and shocking thriller with one of the most iconic twists since perhaps The Sixth Sense 5 years earlier. Saw takes place primarily in a dingy, poorly lit room in which 2 guys are chained to metal poles. Most of the narrative is in flashbacks, with the characters piecing together why they're trapped together. They come to the conclusion that the whole setup resembles the MO of the Jigsaw Killer. The Jigsaw Killer is infamous for placing people in lethal traps in which they have to do some sort of bodily harm within a time limit in order to escape. When all is revealed, one man fails his test and is left to rot in the room, chained to the wall. Make sure to take some time to check out where it all began over on Peacock, Max, Hulu, Sling, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 7. Trapped in a Time Loop, Palm Springs. I appreciate this entry because the film Palm Springs, starring Andy Samberg and Christian Milioti, is a sci-fi rom-com. Yes, you heard that right. And by creatively mixing and matching a select amount of tropes from those genres, Palm Springs becomes this exciting and funny fusion of all of them. Samberg and Milioti have screen presence, likability, and chemistry, which help prop up an already well-made film. The story goes that both these characters end up in a time loop in which their day resets anytime one of them falls asleep or dies. It's its own twist on Groundhog Day, although in Palm Springs, a pseudoscientific reason is given as to why the characters are in the time loop. Both characters had passed through some kind of temporal vortex hidden in a cave. Palm Springs is quite a touching film. It is a thoughtful journey on how we guard our hearts and the lengths we will go to move on or not. The end of the film is actually ambiguous as to whether they are still stuck in the time loop, as it hints to both. Like, while they may not be stuck in the same day, they may be stuck in the next day. It probably says more about me, but this fate doesn't sound horrible. I should have mentioned that we do learn that the repeating day is one of the worst days of a woman's life. So to relive one of the worst days of your life over and over? Okay, yeah, that's an awful fate. Let me know what you think after you check this out on Disney Plus or Hulu. Number 8. Survivor's Guilt. The Mist. I couldn't make this list without including something from the master of horror himself, Stephen King. And this one is a doozy. 2007 saw what might be the best Stephen King adaptation to date, The Mist. A strange mist envelops a town, and there are lethal, terrifying creatures in said mist. The story takes place primarily in a grocery store where many people have hunkered down to stay safe. But of course, paranoia and fear take over and people clash. The Mist is still topical today, especially in our current tumultuous political climate. The ensemble, led by Thomas Jane, played their parts brilliantly and emotionally, with Marcia Gay Harden, who plays the deplorable religious zealot, constantly steals scenes. Jane, who plays David Drayton, eventually escapes the store along with a group of survivors, because the store becomes overrun by monsters. He realizes that none of them are going to survive, and he mercy kills them, including his very own son. As David is about to end his own life, the army arrives for rescue as they have neutralized the threat. David comes to the realization that he will now have to live the rest of his life knowing he was mere moments away from all the survivors, including his son, being saved. This is one of the most brilliant, emotional, and devastating ends to a film I have experienced. Make sure to check it out on Tubi, Roku, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 9. Cursed Forever, It Follows. A decade ago, It Follows was released in theaters and helped revitalize what we now know as elevated horror. The film's brilliance lies in its simplicity. The stellar cast, the sublime script, the striking cinematography, and the nerve-wrackingly beautiful score all contributed to this sleek and effective thriller. In It Follows, there is a creature that slowly but ruthlessly stalks a victim until they are dead. The only way to get rid of it, or pass it on, is through sex. It Follows is often viewed as a well-crafted, albeit blunt, allegory for STDs. But it is also conveys in persuasiveness, unease that comes with any chronic disease. Whoever has said creature after them will be gradually and feverishly stalked by it until said person is dead. And even if the carrier passes the creature on, the creature can still come back around to them if the other carrier dies. Either way, any survivor will live with dread and paranoia because the creature can look like anyone, living or dead. If that sounds familiar, 2022 Smile did this concept and also used it quite effectively. But I digress. If someone passes on the creature, then they can also have to live with the guilt of either having tortured or killed someone else. Make sure to check it out on Sling, Netflix, Paramount Plus, Hulu, Fubo, Roku, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 10. A Plaything, Barbarian. 2022 marked a banner year for horror films, and one of the crown jewels of horror that year was Barbarian. The marketing for this film gave away nothing. Two people end up sharing an Airbnb, but something sinister is afoot. The first half of the film is a whole narrative itself involving Tess, played by Georgina Campbell, and Keith, played by Bill Skarsgård. The script is smart, and so are these characters. They feel genuine, dynamic, and even discuss the nuances of modern gender roles, which does play into the film's themes. The audience is made to be unsure of Keith's untrustworthiness. But when the ball drops, it's not what we did think. Keith and Tess discover a secret passage in the basement, and Keith is dragged away by a creature. Then we cut to another narrative, AJ's, played by Justin Long, who's an actor that finds out he's no longer going to be in a show that he landed because he's being accused of sexual assault. The way this particular narrative is divulged, the audience is made to sympathize with Justin Long, and he is cast perfectly because we like this actor. But we slowly see that he's the bad guy. He also happens to own the Airbnb from the first narrative, and he goes to check it out since he's planning on selling it. What we learn is that the monster is not really a monster, but a deformed woman who has been living in a basement, just looking to have a child to care for. But that's not even the worst fate. This deformed woman's mother had been chained up in the room in said basement for years, raped, and forced to give birth until death. But make sure to watch this glorious film over on Prime, Hulu, Sling, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. If you're really enjoying our content and want to help support us, click that join button for exclusive content, rewards, and perks. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again. See you in the next one.